Good morning, evening, afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the One Up Podcast. My name, as always, is Milos Bukarica. With me, my co-host, George Martinez. And we've got our awesome guest today. Would y'all want to introduce yourselves?
Sure, my name is Yesenia.
I'm Carlos.
And what do y'all do?
I am an immigration attorney here located in Fort Worth, Texas.
And I'm a paralegal, and I also run the Fort Worth office here with Yesenia.
Nice. So it is going to be a little bit of a different podcast today. We're still going to hit on film and stuff like that, but, decided we'd try a couple of different things here since a lot of some podcasts here are either from other places, have dealt with immigration, or know people that have, figured, might as well talk about something like that.
All right, what are the type of cases you handle? Or what? Yeah, go ahead.
So
Just dip
personally,
into it. All right, let's go.
let's just get into it.
Yeah.
So I handle both removal cases. This is people that are already in court, either detained, like you're in the detention center, or you're out and about, but you have a court hearing. And then with Carlos, now we're holding more of the family petitions. So this is like your spouse petitioning the wife, your kids are petitioning the parents, or even like if they're abroad, you're trying to bring them into the United States. We're working with all of
Right now we have Manuel on the podcast who just recently got married. He brought his wife from Mexico, so he just went through the whole process, but he wasn't able to be here today.
Yeah, we kind of wanted to talk about it, but, he kind of told us enough to where we might kind of pivot that conversation. But, yeah, do you guys have experience with that in your personal lives with kind of that kind of stuff?
Me personally, so I'm a DACA recipient, which means I was brought into the U.S. as a small kid by my parents, and then we just overstayed. And in 2012 is when President Barack Obama gave the opportunity for the children to basically have a work permit and be protected from deportation. Because without that, I couldn't have gone to college. Everything was more expensive when I was going into college. I was treated as an outsider, but I've lived here my whole life. Like, I don't even know Mexico, but with that protection, it's opened a lot of opportunities, and that's what it got me to be more involved with immigration, since I'm still living through that process. So I want to help people who can be helped.
I kind of want to go back on that because you said it's difficult to go to college. So I'm also a DACA recipient. I was also brought here when I was like in the U.S., but I didn't get DACA till after undergrad. So I'm a little bit behind that. So I didn't get it till the last year of college. So I had to apply through college, through Pell Grants, to scholarships without any assistance. So everybody was like, well, why are you going to college? You can't even graduate. You can't get the license. But it's just a lot of hard work and working. So I am licensed attorney here in Texas, and that took forever. But it's harder. It's more expensive, like you said, but you can still do it.
But you said you weren't able to get licensed in Texas originally?
No, so Texas originally is, like we all know, it's a very red state.
Yeah.
So it became a little bit harder to do a lot of the things. So across the U.S., there's maybe like 3 or 4 states that allow individuals to get a higher education, yet alone be licensed. So when I started law school, it was 2016. But when I started applying, Texas didn't allow me to get a license. So it was like you had to be a legal permanent resident, or if you didn't, you couldn't get licensed. So it was like going through 4 years of school, getting a debt, and then still not having the. So that's why I went to California, and then
And the licensing you got in California also lets you work practicing law here in Texas?
yeah. So I
Okay.
had my education. I went to law school and all of that in California. Tried that Texas bar, and that's a whole different issue to discuss because it's very hard to pass. And I didn't. So I came back here, and I was accredited to work and deal with cases. And then Texas allowed me to get a license. I was like, cool.
Nice. And yeah, I think you guys hit on that before the podcast where that recently changed where Texas does allow some things like that now.
Yeah. So yeah, it's usually now it's individuals that have an employment. So like if you're able to work legally and you have like a work permit, then you can apply for something.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And I know that affects you, right, Carlos?
Yeah. So eventually, I want to go into law school. I'm basically already have a lot of knowledge. I've been doing this for 10 years now, dealing with the same cases, family cases, like petitioning for other family members, as well as people who are in court in deportations proceedings. So I do want to follow and my dream, and she's part of the inspiration. I didn't know an attorney, a DACA recipient, can do that, and now I'm looking at it and work along her. But I do want to go to law school one day, but right now I'm still DACA, so that's, as she mentioned, very expensive.
Gotcha. I mean, you got to follow your dreams. That's something you always want to do. That's why we're doing this podcast, because it's something that we kind of always wanted to do. Granted, not as many red flags as that. I myself am from Croatia. I did come here through refugee stuff like that. I did become a citizen through my parents getting naturalized. So different kind of thing. But, there's also, no matter where you're from, you're always going to face a little bit of pushback, if you're not from here, which is understandable. People want to take care of their own first. on paper, but looking at our country, not really get too political, but too many homeless. We don't care about veterans, even though, whatever. But, sorry. Off topic.
I was gonna say, under DACA, as far as going to school, what benefits do you have? Like, as far as trying to get financial assistance?
I want to say Texas is a lot more open with that. There's something called TAFSA. So obviously, if you went to college here, you apply for FAFSA, which is federal aid. You get scholarships, or like you get money through that. For Texas, you have TAFSA. Same thing, but it's just for individuals. So it's easier if you have a Social Security to go through that. Without DACA, you don't have a. You're basically in the shadows, as they say, without any. So getting DACA does definitely bigger, not wide as everybody else, but you're able to have.
Okay, and that's only for like state funding or state financial assistance.
Right. So if you needed like bigger, like higher education, like for me going to law school, I couldn't get federal aid, so I have private loans. So obviously I'm in debt a lot more. Think of like I have a big little house that I own, but I don't own the house. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
So it keeps you from receiving federal financial aid, but what are the benefits or like the pros and cons of like DACA?
I think being scared is one of them. DACA came out in 2012 after I graduated high school. So I had a full ride scholarship to Texas Christian University, TCU, but I couldn't accept it because they had some federal loans and I couldn't accept it. So I had a free $40,000 and some odd opportunity, but I couldn't accept it because I wasn't documented before DACA. So I went to a community college and I got some TASPA aid there. But so you get some aid, you stop being scared, you stop being in the shadows. One thing a lot of people don't know, they're undocumented people also pay income taxes, but we don't benefit anything from it. That's a lot of misconception. Yeah. So we still contribute to taxes, have to pay them, but in the end, we don't benefit from it when we retire. But also, having DACA, you get your driver's license, which you can't get if you're undocumented. They can't deport you if you don't do anything. Any little thing like a DWI that exposes you, and that they can kick you out, take you off the program, and place you in deportation proceedings. Yeah. So that's why people with DACA are most people who either have a higher education or just really hardworking, and they just want to stay here. Because even one little, if you drink and drive, one DWI, that puts you in jeopardy and take you out of the country, basically.
One of my friends, I don't know if you remember him, Dino. He went to school with us. His brother actually got deported because of something like that. He came over here, through some sort of visa. It wasn't a refugee visa like we did, because he came before us, and they were undocumented for a long time. And so his brother, cool guy, but liked to stand up for his friends, as a lot of our people do. So there was a lot of public fights, stuff like that. Eventually got arrested one too many times, and they sent him back. On the bright side, he's doing much better over there than he was here. That doesn't always happen, right? But for him, he kind of got lucky on that. And then with that, Dino was really scared to go out of country because our friend Andre, which you also know, he got married last year. He had a wedding in Mexico, right? And Dino was supposed to be his best man, but he was afraid. He's like, because I don't have my stuff in order. And he was working to get it done because there was other issues. Birth certificate back home was wrong. So to even get stuff corrected up here, he needed to deal with that back there. And you think process here is slow. Process like paperwork in Croatia and Serbia is like way slower than here. But nevertheless, so he couldn't make it to the wedding because he was afraid if he goes, because he's technically kind of undocumented still, he didn't know if he would come back. So, I mean, he did eventually get everything straightened out a couple months after that. He was able to travel, go back home with his family. But yeah, for a long time, he was scared to do anything illegal, go on vacation, do anything, right? So definitely, your Dawkins programs like that definitely can help people be less scared.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that they're like, well, you have something, so you're good to go. And it's like, you don't.
Yeah.
You are like at a middle bar of getting whatever it is. And like simple things like that. Like you're like, okay, my friends want to go on a trip. Cool. Where are we going? You're stuck. You're like think of it like an oak. You can't go anywhere else. You can ask for permission. Like I myself I already petitioned so that I could go outside of the country. I haven't been to Mexico since I was like maybe 8. So it's a big thing of you're always afraid. And depending on your friend group, there's always that question of like, how would they take it? How, oh my God, thinking of dating life. If you're ever dating, like, do you tell them right off the bat, like, hey, yes, you want to travel to like Mexico? Like, wait, I kind of can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
That gets.
You can go.
You just
can't
come back.
Yeah. It's like, well, permanent vacation, right? But doesn't sound that good actually on paper.
And we have to pay like $700 every year and a half to renew it. So it's not just free.
Wow.
I think, in my opinion, that's why they want to keep doing it and not giving us a path to residency. Because imagine, they say it's around 800,000 of us, DACA recipients. So multiply that times 700 every year and a half. That's how much we're contributing to the country. So if you lose that amount of money, that's...
I mean, not just that. Like you said, you're also paying taxes. You're doing a whole bunch of stuff. That's not the only thing you're contributing. You're contributing a lot more. And then you're not getting shit back, through... If nothing changes, you're not getting stuff back after you retire. So it's just... And you said there was some issues with you opening up certain type of accounts too, right?
Yeah.
Like certain retirement accounts you can't open, if I remember correctly.
Correct, yeah, we can't. Anything that has to do with federal, we can.
Yeah.
And we also have to, like, when opening credit cards, there's a little section that says, are you a U.S. citizen, U.S. resident, or alien resident? I used to always have trouble. I'm like, man, which one am I? I didn't know which one to put. But usually we have to put alien resident. If you put a lie, that's fraud, and it's going to affect you in the long run, because when you petition or try to get your residency card, they can see, like, even if it was an accident that you put you're a citizen, that's the most, basically the government's going to say, oh, you're making fun of us, you can't become a resident even if you were little or a long time ago. Yeah. That's the biggest red flag they see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole criminal thing, I mean, that's quite, I just kind of go back to it. I watched a little short documentary this morning. I don't know how it came up on my feed, but there was this dude who was from Korea, right? And he was adopted here when he was a child after the Korean War. Right, but like no paperwork was ever done, so he got into a bit of trouble later on in life, and he was like late 30s, early 40s, something like that. Already had a family here, and then they're like, well, law says if you fuck up and you're undocumented, you get deported. So now he's this man who doesn't speak any Korean, just living over there without his family and everything, just being sent back because stuff was messed up when he was a child and wasn't even his fault. So the fact that there's no exceptions to the system is, I think, kind of like the biggest flaw. And granted, I understand it's hard. You have to look at case-by-case basis. There's a lot of people, and I assume that's what you guys are here for, to kind of help out with those case-by-case things, right?
Yeah, so we usually do like consultations, and there's specific questions that I go through that I'm like, okay, when did you enter the U.S.? How did you go in through detail to figure out, do you even qualify for anything or you don't? Yeah. There's like elderly couples that come, like they've lived their whole life. They have grandkids, they have businesses, they have houses. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you just have to stay the way you are till you die. Yeah. And it's really, really hard. But at the same time, like, I'm like, you know what? You lived this far. You've made it this far. Why move anything? Why?
At the end of life, they come want to be with family. And, as long as their family's here, it's understandable. It's either you go here or they go to them, right? Because, but a lot of times, I don't know, in my personal opinion, older people especially have it easier in other places than here. Just because here, like, this is going to sound like a weird take. But, like, back home, for example, like, people are always walking, people are always doing stuff. There's always, even if it's like, and everything's walking distance, right, in a lot of the cities. Here, especially Texas, nothing's walking distance, right? And here, our thing with our elderly people is put them in a home, right? Yeah. And so, like, they would be a lot more independent wherever they're at, coming over here, especially if they don't know English. My grandmother, she didn't speak any English, and she just had a rough time. We couldn't take care of her because her health needs got so drastic where we had to put her in a home. And I know stuff like that was rough for her. Just being with people where they can speak your language at least, I feel like for her it would have been better if she stayed home during at least that part of her life. So with her elderly, I understand you want to be with family, but sometimes it's actually easier for them to stay at home.
There's a lot of them too, like a lot of the community, at least in the Mexican community, that when they get to a certain age, they just go back home. Like,
my uncle just did that.
Yeah, like my mom's planning that. My mom's planning to just move back. I'm like, you're in your 50s though. But she's like, yeah, but you already have a life, and it's like, I don't want to stay here, and it's like they're paying rent, they're staying away. Whereas if she goes back home, she's with the whole family. Like, it's a whole community there. Yeah. So that's always something that happens at the end. Yeah. Yeah, my uncle I think he just turned 70 or is about to turn 70, and he moved back. He's like, he saw what his mom went through here. He's like, he doesn't want to put his daughter and his grandkids through that, basically. He's like, if I want to be here with my wife, with the people I know, with the doctors speaking my language. And then the issue there is like for example, if my mom decides to actually do it, then it's like, okay, well, so when do I see you? Because I can't leave the country. So you have that issue too.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And I mean, granted, sure, Skype, but Messenger, whatever, everything else is a thing now. So But stuff like that, even though it brings us together, it makes us feel further apart.
Yes. Me, you're quiet.
I know. I'm just thinking about it.
You got thoughts in your head, I believe it, George.
No, I was just thinking about it. What's been like the recent like news that's come out, DACA? Because I know under Trump he wanted to take it away, so it got like into legal battles. It got held up in court for a while, and I think they weren't letting people apply for it, right, for a little while.
Yeah.
New people, like only people who had already were grandfathered in could keep it.
So so when Trump took office, he battled that DACA was unconstitutional, so he froze it for a little bit, and that meant people who already had it can keep doing it, but you couldn't apply. New people couldn't apply, or if you were between, I forgot the months they said, but if you were between X and Y months, you couldn't renew, and I was afraid because I was between those. So imagine you already have a job, a license, and protected from deportation. I was just waiting for my card to renew, and then the president took over and said this. I'm like, oh man, my life just shattered. And I was working, I remember, at a nonprofit, and when that happened, we had the Univision, the Mexican news channel there, because they were getting live reactions, and I was there, and I remember I broke down crying, and I remember they zoomed in and said, I'm like, oh man. But no, yeah, that shattered my life, because I'm like, oh man, he took it away. What am I gonna do? Am I gonna get deported? Because they knew where everyone lives, you know, especially if they take it away, you're gonna get like maybe a letter saying, hey, you have to get out this country, you're no longer protected. But yeah, those were rough. But yeah, he froze it, and it's still the same. A whole bunch of states battled, so it stayed open only for people who are renewing. So that's why we're telling people, hey, renew when you can those 6 months, because DACA is an executive order. It could be taken away at any time.
Yeah.
So it's still in courts. They are going back to battle in court, I believe, November of this year, to try to take it away. So it's literally, we get a new date every once in a month that they're like, oh, we're going back to court, we're gonna argue, and then they're like, no, it's fine, we're gonna keep it. And then somebody else goes back and they're like, no, let's pick back and forth. You're questioning when they're just gonna be like, they take it away. So at that point, you're really looking at like, okay, what's a more permanent?
Yeah, and I mean that's a valid reaction, Carlos. I mean, I'm glad you can laugh about it now, but 100% a valid reaction, man.
Yeah.
But,
so do you feel like there's a lot of pressure for like the upcoming elections now that it's like Trump again?
Yeah. Again, he tried to take it away, and now he's talking about more
drastic measures.
Yeah, and now he has a big following, and they're saying but we just need to show the people that DACA, or people in general who are immigrants, they just come here. We just come here to work, and everything else, we don't really care. Yeah, we've seen a lot of people who are doing bad stuff, but then again, it's a small percentage. They don't show every other people who are actually doing really good in life. For instance, the attorney, she has a freaking doctorate degree in law, and other people who are doing really good things who are DACA.
Yeah.
There's also, I don't know if you guys seen movies from the director Eugenio Derbez, the Mexican screenwriter. He has a lot of good movies who spotlight immigrants and their lives and stuff like that, and they're really good movies to watch. And I feel like I'm part of those movies because of my life and how it's been.
With those movies, you can have movies of the life that they have here, like when you're under the shadows, you're working. They're usually depicting somebody being a washer, like in a restaurant, which is in the back, or you have the maids usually, because that's the Latino community. And then you have those movies that depict the travel, like just the middle. It's a desert between Mexico and here, and it's like, oh, it's not that big. You're like, no, it's a lot of things that happen there. You have vigilantes that are going out there, like literally shooting them down, like target practice. You have people that don't know the way, so they get lost, and then it's like them trying to get out, and they end up getting found just dead after a while. So movie wise, there's a lot that you think, oh, it's just Hollywood, they're exaggerating, and you're like, they're not exaggerating enough.
Yeah, I know. I mean, here my stuff here has been easy. On a contrast though, back home when I was a kid, I remember how hard my parents had it, because we immigrated from Croatia to Serbia, right, because of that war. Their president let us in, but like because of the programs they had, we were able to kind of stay afloat a little bit. But like, I remember my parents, not for the biggest stints of time over there. I think we were in Serbia from like 95 to like 03. I think maybe a year and a half to 2 years total of that my parents spent working, because it was just nobody wanted to hire refugees. It was always like, oh, he's a refugee, he's this, blah blah blah. It was a big stigma against us, even though we're literally like the same people. We were the Serbians by blood who lived in Croatia. We got kicked out of because we were not Croatian. We
Mm.
came to where our people are from originally, right? And then they didn't want anything to do with us because we were immigrants in their country, right? So, I mean, not everybody was like that, but it was always that stigma, right? Here, even though that's a thing, it's much, much, much less of a thing here, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, I mean, of course, I'm not saying you guys don't have problems. 100% there's problems. It's just that, you know, it's kind of crazy that, you know, I love the fact that you're able to be here, find a job, have, you know, do your stuff, and nobody bat an eye, look at you, be like, right?
I think that discrimination, it might only stand out more if you're like complexion, obviously.
Yeah.
True,
So
but-
they probably go through the same stigma, just being like darker complexion. And,
Oh, yeah. No, that's fair. That's
Yeah,
fair.
like for example, if I go anywhere, well, like take my dad, they'll speak to him in Spanish, and then they'll
Mm.
look at me in the song, same color skin, boo.
Yeah.
Same. And they would do that all the time.
Yeah.
Or if I remember there was once we went, and obviously he's the one I'm helping him, and then they looked at him like, does she need something? Like they came and asked me for help, and I was like, no, I'm with him. Like it's okay. So you see it, but
Yeah.
at this point, it's like you just laugh at it. You're
Yeah.
just like, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah. So I mean, it's like that everywhere, right? And that kind of sucks. You know, if you're not where you're from, and either you can't go back home because due to the finances or war or whatever, you know, you don't have a home anymore, right? And you try to make a home where you're at, and so you know that's why the places you're at need to make it easier. Yeah.
What do you guys use to stay like up to date, like on news and just like news stories?
Well, usually the main website, uscis.gov, that's where immigration news happens. If something changes of the law, it'll tell you right there, like the big front page. Like right now, 2 weeks ago, a new law came in called Parole in Place. That's for people who came here undocumented, but have either or have a U.S. citizen spouse. They usually, when you come here undocumented, you have to do a 3-step process. The first one is letting you know, hey, you have someone who can petition for you. The second step is going back to the home country, doing an interview, and then basically coming back. With this new law that they implemented, they can stay here and do the process in the U.S. if they qualify. But again, Texas, along with like 14 other states, they fought it, and yesterday was a deadline, but then they extended it till September 23rd. But yeah, there's always anything dealing with immigration. It's going to be appealed, and it's going to go back and forth. But it's kind of weird because people are saying like, just do it the legal way. This is the legal way, but now you're
Yeah.
taking it away, and that's why, in my opinion, maybe that's why people are coming in, because they're taking the legal way to come in, so they do it illegally.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, sure, change the legal way, just make the legal way much harder, right? Yeah. And yeah, that going back home. Oh, yeah, sure, you can apply for it, go back home, live where you came from, you know, in that neighborhood where you're getting shot at every day and shit, you know, depending on what part of the country you're coming from, right? So it's like, yeah, sure, you can go back and be safe the place you ran away from, especially if you're seeking asylum. Yeah.
So USCIS webpage would definitely give you updates on a more like normal person basis. So,
I'm a normal person.
And if you are too, we'll definitely post a link here where we talk about it in the description too.
then you also have like the White House always puts the press up. So the program that Carlos was talking about, the Parole in Place, is an executive order just like DACA. So you're gonna see the same thing. You're gonna go back and forth in court. They're gonna say no. They're gonna say yes. But most of the stuff, unfortunately, because of the whirlwind, you're looking at TikTok. So if you're looking at TikTok, oh my God, I have had so many clients be like, but TikTok told me to do this, or TikTok said this. Go back. Find it on TikTok, sure. Now go and research. Now go to Google. Start as basic as it is Google, and then go down. You're looking at The Guardian. You're looking at, if you really want to focus on something close by, look at Fox, look at NBC, look at anything like that. But then don't just take it by what they say. Contrast it, compare it.
Even with stuff like, you know, Fox, NBC, Guardian, whatever, look at where they got their sources too, because granted, there's bias everywhere, right? So I want to see where your original posting's from.
So the new thing I started doing was like, I started looking into like ground news, where it compares like the same story versus like multiple newspapers or like news stations. So
Hashtag not sponsored, but please sponsor us. Ground news is awesome.
Yeah, and it's been awesome so far. And so it gives you like the factuality level of it, and how many sources are in the story, like how many reported it, how they reported on it. So you can also see like compare like the headlines. How some of them are like maybe more hyperbolic than the others.
Some of them really like accentuate it. You're like, it's all the media, like, oh, there's somebody got killed, and I was like, but wait, why?
Dude,
what happened?
The big story I saw recently where they're like it got disputed. There was a viral video going around that there was like Venezuelan gangs in Dallas taking
I heard
over.
about
Right,
that.
yeah.
And it turns out that the video's a fake video. It has nothing to do with that. But it's something that went viral, and it's been like mostly promoted like on right-wing media.
Yeah.
And then like the one that's happening in Aurora, Colorado, it was
Mhm.
like where like the same type of gang, or I forgot what they called the name of it, but it's the same. They used the same name of a gang that's over in Colorado that they took over an apartment complex.
So like a lady showing all the locks that she would put in her door because
Oh.
of the same way that she was
Mhm.
hiding
Well,
from
they
them.
also showed like some guys like trying to knock down the door. So there's all these videos going around, and then like the police gave a statement. They're like, yeah, we're not sure. It's not really a gang. Nothing's confirmed, and it's like it's not really as big of an issue as they're making it out to be.
Yeah.
And once you compare like all the news articles, it's like all the police departments saying it's not they didn't take
Mhm.
over the complex, but there is like crime happening,
Hmm.
but they don't know necessarily like if it's a specific group or gang.
Yeah.
If you really look back and you notice, like during election time, especially if immigration's an issue, they will highlight anything
course.
bad that they can
Yeah.
find. They're like, this is specific group did specific, and then do that. Like that's what I'm saying. Like do that. Go back and check.
Yeah.
Look at all those.
It's like nobody else except for MS-13 members are coming through. If they're all members, trust me, even if they're babies, they're all members.
I had someone who just like went full like right wing, and she would like argue with me on this, like send me news stories and stuff. So I started like fact checking her news stories and like replying to her, and it's like she got upset. He's like, "What does low factuality even mean? It's bias." And I'm like, "Dude,
Yeah, it is, of course. You're posting the bias. Woman, understand. Jesus.
Didn't you get into it with somebody on Twitter?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was going back and forth, just like they were saying some dumb thing. They didn't even fact check, so I fact checked them. It was actually on TikTok.
Oh, okay.
It
But
was
it
on
was,
TikTok.
It's
So I got a whole
disappointing.
bunch of like little kids going after me and stuff like that. They're like, "No, you're wrong. Fact check it." What I do? Here you go. Here's a few sources, and then they're like, "No, they're wrong." Blah blah. I'm like, "Bro, it's right there." Like,
So it's
you
like
can't-
It's only correct if I believe it, right?
Bro, yeah.
so it's like 8 in the morning. He's just back.
no." And then even when I'm fact checking them, I try not to send them like the most like left wing version of it. I'll look for like the more centered one,
Mhm.
and I'll send them that. I'm like, here's like something more in the
You're like, I'm
middle.
not, but like, here you go.
But
Yeah.
they're still like one sided on the whole thing. Sometimes
course.
they're like on just a single issue type voters,
Mhm.
and for them, I think it was more like on pro choice. They're like so they call themselves like pro life, and they're only voting for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, sometimes our people's beliefs, no matter what side you're on, whether on left or right, sometimes people can be just too grounded into their own beliefs to where they just don't even want to hear discussions, right? And that's not just a right-wing problem. Like, that's everybody problem these
Mhm.
days. It's kind of hard. I even find myself sometimes, when I'm arguing with somebody, just kind of like being a staunch defender of like a certain point, and I'm like, wait, why am I doing this? Like,
Yeah.
clearly, like, they have good points, and I'm like, I have to back away, be like, all right, if I was looking at this externally and not so focused, like, would I be in the right? Right. Sometimes you gotta have to take yourself out of the situation to see if you're being an idiot.
When it comes to arguing, you end up getting tunnel vision. And you're like, and this is it, and this, unless
Yes.
you're willing to actually listen and take back, and you're like, okay, yeah, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I had to tell them, I'm like, okay, well, that's enough of talking about this. I'm like, let's just stop.
Yeah.
But
Because sometimes it's just like running your head into a brick wall.
Yeah.
Right?
yeah. Oh man, there was one of the arguments was like, which group is like actually trying to help people, and she's like, the Republicans are doing the most to help them. I'm like, dude, they keep voting against like stuff to help people. I'm like,
Yeah.
and I told her the example of like, I think it was like Minnesota or something, where they were arguing on school lunches. So they went to provide school lunches for kids, and the Democrat representative, the argument was that they wanted to keep these school lunches for free, or like at least a reduced price on them.
Mm-hmm.
So, because school lunch would be the only meal that a kid has in that
Yeah.
single day. And the Republican replied with, well, if it's the only meal they have a day, it's not going to make a difference. So they might as well not have it. And this girl replied with, like, well, good. They
What?
should have it. And I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, this idiotic. Stop messaging me.
Yeah.
And then she's like, that's like your opinion.
Oh my
And I'm
god.
like,
Yeah.
but she's like, if there were no preservatives in the food, I would be against it. And I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
Yeah.
I don't know how I even got to that, but she's like
It's-
obsessed with preservatives and
Yeah.
like
I mean,
food not being that.
But again, I mean, as you're saying, like with that, there's also people on the other side with the same kind of beliefs. It's not just. Granted, that's a good point. I 100% agree that those school lunches should be free. However, there's people who argue the same shit from the other side.
And some of it's not even making it free, just reduce the price.
So, how about we switch to movies? So,
what's the most famous character you know of that's an immigrant character?
Ooh, if you guys are into Marvel, the Black Panther, the enemy, the uncle, he was DACA. He was DACA, and then he also promoted he's like, I'll stick with you, DACA's blah blah blah. He probably got residency because there's like a special type of visa that people get if they're like big on there, especially him.
Oh, you're talking about like the actor, right?
The
One of
actor,
actors?
yeah. The one who took over Black Panther and became the Black Panther for a little while. Ah, man.
The girl?
No. Michael B. Jordan's enemy.
Chadwick?
No.
Not Chadwick, but the other one, the Golden Black Panther, who took over the throne for a little bit.
Military?
Yeah, the
Oh.
military guy.
He's
was-
like the guerrilla clan.
No. I need to look it up, but he's DACA, and he was a big. He spoke a lot about it when he was in the red carpet and stuff like
Yeah.
that. He promoted DACA, and I remember that. But he's the biggest one I know. Yeah.
I learned something today.
On a Saturday?
But
No school on the weekends, boys.
I was thinking like character, like
Oh,
fictional
shoot.
character, but yeah.
No, he went like someone
So,
realistic.
but like movies on the topic. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go a little bit broader than just characters. What are your favorite kind of movies that talk about the topic of immigration or anything
Alright,
related?
before we do that, like as far as
we
characters,
talked about like one dude's movie. That's fine.
No, I was gonna say Superman. Superman's an immigrant,
Oh,
Yeah.
and he's like the one that represents the American way. At some point, a writer took over the series, and he made Superman renounce like his American citizenship or something, where he just became like a hero for the world. But it was something to make a statement on like the current day politics at the time. But I know that got some backlash because you're like, oh, but Superman represents the American values, the American way. But it's like, oh, it's shifted so much that it's kind of counter to it or like kind of conflicts with it nowadays.
Yeah, but he doesn't have proper adoption papers, so he's technically not a citizen.
Yeah, he came without a visa.
Yeah.
That would be DACA.
Yeah, that's actually. That actually makes.
Yeah, Superman would be DACA.
Yeah.
There was also like on Disney Plus they had a show like for National Treasure, and it was actually supposed to be like kind of a sequel to the movies, but the main character was a girl who was under DACA,
Oh, really?
and like one of the big conflicts in the show was that she, like to find the treasure that they're looking for, she would have to illegally cross get out of the United States and then find her way back.
Permanent bars. Permanent.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the new Hot Cheeto documentary? How Hot Cheetos came to be? It's on Disney Plus.
No.
Not the documentary, but I saw the movie.
Oh, the movie. I'm sorry. Yeah. That's a
The
pretty good movie. You should watch
Flaming-
it. How an immigrant discovered how to make hot Cheetos.
Mhm.
It's really good. You should watch it. It'll make you cry.
From the heat,
It's
or
yeah.
I like my spice, so I don't know. But yeah, the feels, I do cry from the feels, not from the spice.
There's a lot of movies that come to mind. I
Mhm.
can't think of like a specific actor. I'm thinking like Grace comes to mind. There's an episode on Grey's Anatomy
Mhm.
where one of the interns was actually being searched out by one of the ICE officers. So they had to hide
Yeah.
her and put her away so that she can run away. But she was DACA. Like she specifically goes out on the show and she's like, yeah, I'm DACA. And they're coming to look for me. They're like, oh, well, they're just asking questions. Like just answer the questions that we find. She's like, no. That's not how it works. Like,
Yeah.
So the whole episode is her trying to like leave the hospital without getting caught by the officer.
Now I'm just thinking of some terrible stuff that I remember seeing on YouTube way years ago. I don't know if you remember this. This was like back when we were younger. The Amazing Racist.
No.
No, you don't remember that?
No.
It was some
I know
dude
the
doing.
Amazing Race. But
It was some dude doing like stupid fucking skits, and that just reminded me of it. It was bad. It wasn't even. I like stupid funny stuff. So back in the day, I was like, that's kind of funny, but it's really messed up if you think about it. I'm hoping it was staged, but like he would go to like Home Depots and get people, be like, hey, help me out, and instead of like driving to his house, he would drive him to the office.
Oh,
And I'm like, what the fuck? Like that's fucked up. But like I'm pretty sure like it got out later. The dude was just a character, and all that was like actually.
yeah.
Because so I was like, that really fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen like TikToks of the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Like where a guy actually goes to Home Depot. They're like, hey, we need this many people.
And it takes him to Disneyland and shit.
Yeah. Pays him for the day plus takes him to Disneyland.
Yeah.
Man, I've seen those, and some of those people like needed a break. They're like start
yeah.
crying at the end of it. They're like, "Ah, man, this is like the nicest thing I've had in a while."
Yeah.
Because
And-
some of them, like, they just come and work, so they
Yeah.
don't get to really enjoy it. And for them to be
Mhm.
like, okay, I made enough to survive for the day, but I actually got to enjoy it. Like, I actually saw it. And
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest misconceptions. They're like, oh, you're living off the government. I was like, no, you're not.
No.
You were not. You were sitting out there in the hot sun the rest of the day.
And
Yeah.
a lot of people, you can't get any benefits unless you're like a citizen with Social Security.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some people are like, they're taking away your jobs. Okay, you want to work construction 12 hours a day in the hot sun? Do you have
No,
the
but somebody
credentials
might
like
want to.
Yesenia? Can you be an attorney? Because she's taking your job? No, a lot of people don't want to do it or don't have the credentials.
Yeah, but somebody might want to. I don't want to. But yeah, of course.
They want to, but
Yeah.
can they? No.
Then like the other day they did tease them. It's like, yeah, someone who doesn't speak the language taking your job too.
Yeah, but it also depends on like a lot of people. Sure, there's gonna be people from coming from anywhere who have shit work ethic, right? But like for at least 70 to 80% of people from other countries, their work ethic is like beyond what anybody would expect, right? I'm looking at my dad, like how much he works. I'm looking at a bunch of people I know who from other countries who work like just basically spend all of their time working doing stuff. Sure, you have exceptions, but yeah, like you're gonna have better people come here rather than like the criminals and stuff like that, right?
If you have the people willing to like sacrifice to come here, like they're just
Yeah.
here to really work. So you're getting the people who make things happen. So they're just trying to work. So
Yeah.
their work ethic's gonna be high up. Because just imagine like all that it takes to come here.
Yeah, we came here with $100 in our pocket.
I can't say that, but yes, we made.
We came here on vacation and it's still vacation time. Stay here.
Apparently that's happening in Mexico. Now they have like the Americans going over there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's happening now, and now the Mexicans are getting mad because everything's going up since the dollar's worth more.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're being priced out of like the apartments and stuff
Yeah,
because they're just charging them like the American rates.
yeah.
it's
And then you have
ridiculous, man.
places like Cancun, like they had videos just this summer of like people, like Americans that are over there, like, I don't want to hear your music. I'm like, but you're in Mexico. What kind of music do you think you're gonna hear?
Yeah,
Or like, I think for the solar eclipse this year, they wanted to close down like a whole section in Cancun for it. And it was like, there's a whole videos of it of like the Americans being like, no, but it's like, I reserved it. They're like, you can't reserve a public area. Like there was just a lot of back and forth. And I'm like, ma'am, now I see what y'all say. Like it's too much confusion back and forth.
Yeah.
So immigrants, you said movies.
Well, no, I mean, I'm asking you guys if you guys know, because you were talking about stories from that one director. There has to be other stuff, right? Talks about, people who come from other places, who do, stuff like that.
Was there any like media that influenced you on your career choice? No, it was mostly life experience.
It was more life. It was more of like seeing my parents struggle, and then I tried psychology for a while, and then I was like, I can't do it. It's not gonna stay. So I went back to law, and it was mostly just going through the process.
Yeah.
I had a cousin get arrested and deported back when I was like graduating high school, but the way that he was treated, like it was
Yeah.
arrested, taken, and then by the third day he was already in Mexico. It was just very bad. I was like, he got stopped for speeding, which is okay, obviously illegal, don't do it. But instead of getting a normal person that you just get a ticket, you're on your merry way, he was just arrested on the spot. And so seeing all of that, I was like, if I could say more, if I knew more, so you probably was.
I mean, how can you not speed in Texas? That's like asking
But
an
you know those
impossible.
little small towns where
Yeah.
like it goes from like
Of
70
course.
to like 40?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, how is he doing? Is he still back there or anything?
Yeah, no, he deserves to stay. He was like,
Okay.
it's not
She's
like
like, I
it.
plead the fifth.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's fine. Hey,
I'm kidding.
we don't have to talk about what we don't want to talk
Yeah.
about. That's
I
fine.
mean, like, he's okay.
Yeah. Like some with my friend's brother, like he's
Yeah.
doing fine back there. He managed to get his way to Germany and get actually a good job, good stuff. So he's sometimes depending on, not saying this might be brother's situation, but sometimes you need that good kick in the ass to actually motivate you to do stuff, right? Because it's seeing myself. I'm well enough in life where I feel like I'm doing okay, but I could have done shit sooner.
Yeah.
And I count myself as a lazy asshole compared to my parents. So, like, usually it's like either the first generation or older generation that are really the hard go-getters. Second and third, sometimes you lose that, not always. Looking at fucking Carlos over here, like, he's doing amazing. But, like, so sometimes that can happen where it's like you see your parents doing all this grind and then you just go and be not really a great member of society. Yeah. And I've seen that a lot with certain friend groups and other people I've known. So sometimes you need that kick in the butt to be like, hey, yo, go do something with your life.
Yeah, I think the hardest one is where you see your friends that are like you grew up with and they have documents, their papers, they have your receipt, and then you see them like which is fine, but you're still not doing anything after that.
Yeah.
Like, you
Living
didn't
off
have a
daddy's
job.
money.
You're living off of a dad. And I'm like, that's fine if he has it. Cool. Wish it was me. It's not me.
Yeah.
But then you're over here struggling. We're like, if I just I would be way better off.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. But speaking of movies.
Were there
Go ahead.
things that you felt like you missed out on? Like,
Studying abroad.
studying-
For me, it was studying abroad. Like, if I had documents, I would not be.
I think so. Because since I got DACA after I graduated high school,
Yeah.
I had to go to college, pay everything off. So I didn't get that college experience. Like, I had to work through college, so I couldn't like have fun like a lot of people did.
Hey, shut up. You stayed by the dorm. I didn't.
Yeah,
fight
because I
you.
didn't have a car.
fair.
I didn't have a
Fair.
car, so I
Fair.
couldn't go back and forth.
Fair.
But I wish I had that college experience, like had fun and stuff like that. Go on,
Drum-
Yeah.
never mind.
go out of the country.
Yeah.
We can't even go to like towns where they have close to security checks, like
Yeah.
border towns.
Border
Wow.
towns.
Like South Padre Island, they say it's okay, but sometimes there's like
Wow.
ice and stuff right there, so it's scary to go, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's still technically the U.S., but they can still check on you. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff I wish. But now it's all good.
Around.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how was it like working, like before you had DACA, were you working in high school? Or how was
No, so since I couldn't work anywhere, even through college, yeah, it was after college, 2 years into college, I worked with my mom, housekeeping,
Mhm.
because that's what she did too. So I was still a grown ass man, 20 years old, like working with my mom because there's nothing else I could do. I mowed lawns on my own time with neighbors and made my own stuff, but there was no job, so I worked with my mom cleaning houses and stuff like that.
Because I heard some like they missed out. They're like all their friends were working at McDonald's and like talking about stories, having fun in McDonald's, just
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
around at their first job. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like he could get apply because he didn't have his social.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
During high school I couldn't work. I worked with my mom on the weekends, but it was okay because I studied instead. But I wish I couldn't drive either. My parents were like, we don't want to expose you driving because if they get you, you're gonna be deported. So
Yeah.
parents were also like super
More protected.
protected. But yeah, it was pretty tough.
Yeah.
Were you, as far as like having your DACA status, do you tell people or do you keep it to yourself? As
That's when it's hard, especially like she mentioned dating.
Yeah.
One time I did tell her like almost off the bat, like a few dates in, I'm DACA, and they're like, "Oh, you're just using me for." I'm like, no. And then sometimes like into the relationship, you tell them, and they say the same freaking thing. Like, no, I don't need you for papers. I'm doing good. Thank you for asking, but it's tough. It was also hard telling my friend group. I remember we were going somewhere, and then I'm like, "Hey guys, I don't have papers," and then people just looked at me, Vera and Donnie and stuff. They were cool about it.
Yeah.
And, but I'm like, they just started asking questions like, "Oh, how do you do this? How do you do that?"
Well, I mean, yeah, because
And
people
I'm like,
don't
"I
understand.
don't. I don't." But it was hard back then.
I mean, for those people, you know, I mean, they're good people, so they
Oh,
weren't
yeah,
asking, I don't know, they're being malicious. They were just
No, yeah, they were
curious.
curious.
Yeah.
But if other people, I would just tell them, "No, I'm just here. Like, no, I don't want to work. I can't work. I don't have a car," which was like not a lie, but you can't really say that you're a citizen
Yeah.
and stuff like that because then they're gonna be like, "Oh, prove it." Like I had my first car when I was 20 because I didn't have
Yeah.
money because I didn't work and a driver's license and stuff like that. So I missed out on a lot of stuff, but it also made me who I am today.
Yeah. I think I bought you Taco Bell for working on that movie with me, my first ever short film I ever made. That was in high school. Can I report? I remember that. You actually,
Yeah.
it was that really funny, stupid zombie video that was like 40 seconds long. That was, yeah, I remember that was hilarious. Thank you. That was like my first ever short film. So
Oh, yeah.
you were a part of my very important journey. I really appreciate it, Carlos.
What about you, Yesenia?
I was the other way. I was like, if I'm gonna get deported, I'm gonna get deported. So I'm gonna do what I want to do. So I got a car out of high school. Actually, the car that I literally had issues with this morning. So it did definitely cause struggles. So my first year of undergrad, I would have to commute and afford staying on campus. So, but then I also couldn't get a permit to park on campus because I didn't have a license. So you're parking further away from campus and having to walk or wake up even earlier to make that drive.
Yeah.
But I did have a job. I worked with the criminal courthouse downtown Dallas since high school. So my high school had a connection with the courthouse that allowed internships. So I started working for one of the clerks as the coordinator with her, and then an attorney came in and was like, "I need a secretary." So he hired me under the table basically. So it was like
Yeah.
mostly cash or like personal checks, but I kept working because I was like, "There's no way that I can do whatever I want to do without the money." And I'm also not the kind to ask the parents because they
Mhm.
were also struggling.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I want to do that, I'm going to do that. So I've been driving and working without anything. But obviously, it's more of like you're just very cautious about it. Because just like Carlos said, like if I were to be caught driving while being drunk or doing something illegal, like then I'm out. You're done.
Yeah.
But it's like for my parents, they were like, you're going to get deported anyways. So just might as well do it.
Did you you didn't have any issues working like that, right? Like everybody treated you fairly, nobody withheld checks or shit like that?
No.
Because I know people can be assholes about that.
But they do. But there's a lot of people that have done
Yeah.
that. There's a lot of clients that would come and tell you, like, hey, I worked or I did this job and they don't want to pay me anymore. And then they get the threat of, like, oh, I'll call immigration, blah, blah, blah. No, not me. Like, I worked for that attorney, I want to
That's
say
good.
about 2 years. And then, but again, I got DACA at the end of it. So that
Yeah.
attorney was the only one I worked for that I didn't have anything with. Anything after that, I already had DACA. So you have
Of
your
course.
social, you have your worker, and then obviously you get your license. So now I don't have to worry about driving without one.
I mean, everybody's got to start somewhere, right? I'm pretty sure, like, if you didn't do that, your path might have been completely different now. So that's good.
Yeah, that attorney definitely took me under his wing. It was like, if this is what you're gonna do, then this is what you have to do to get there,
Mhm.
and pushed it a lot along the way. So when I basically quit from him because I was like, it's either working with you or going to school. He's like, nah, I will fire you if you don't decide to go to school. You pick.
Good man.
So yeah, definitely.
Are you able to have health insurance with that?
Through my employer, yes. On your own.
With our employer.
With
Not
our
right now.
yeah, like if your employer, like I used to work for Catholic Charities, so obviously because I already had a social and everything, they can provide you, like your employer can provide you the medical insurance.
Okay.
But there's also what the Obamacare.
Yeah.
Because you're DACA, you don't qualify for that. Like you're out. So if your employer doesn't give it, and your parents might not be able to put you under it, you're SOL.
Yeah, so you can't really have any kind of medical help unless it's through an employer, right?
We can't get sick.
Otherwise, it's
Yeah.
just
The Sprite and Vaporub.
Yeah.
Mexican chicken soup and all
Oh,
that.
yeah. Of course. Or Vicks Vapor Rub is do it here, yeah. So many home remedies when I was a kid in Serbia.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. My mom still does a whole bunch of them. Like, come on, just give me drugs.
Yeah, so no. To answer your question, no medical insurance.
Yeah.
And
What now, George?
oh no, we covered a lot of it because we did go over like a little bit of like the misconceptions. Are there like anything that you feel we didn't touch on?
I guess you kept asking about it. So yeah, the misconceptions of like, are you able to work? Are you able to travel? Are you able to get medical insurance? Mundane things that everybody like doesn't think about.
Yeah.
That's more the biggest thing. Or it's like they think just because you're already here, you have everything. You're getting
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
paid for. It's like no. And even if you and I might be doing the same things, I struggled 3 times harder just to get to where you. So it's definitely something that gets in the way for a lot of us. And it's more of like, do I want to go through the immigration process? And they're like, oh, we just do it the right way. And I'm like, the right way is going to take me 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I can do it, but I'm going to be here 20 years. Keep that in mind.
And I love how they're like, you're sending all the money back home. Okay, but what about all the millionaires with offshore accounts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, same thing, just we're turning a blind out of that one.
And then a lot of those millionaires aren't even paying taxes. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're
It's
doing
like
more than them.
Donald Trump paid like $700 the
Dang.
last time his like
His
income
taxes.
tax came
Mhm.
out.
Damn.
And so you have like immigrants paying in thousands of dollars in their
Yeah, but
income tax
He didn't
and
get
not
paid
getting
for.
it.
Yeah.
Yes, a lot of the issues is just like learning to know. And like Carlos said, it's like whenever you're telling your friend groups, whenever you're telling new employers, whenever you're telling like dating life, it always becomes a question of like, are they asking because of curiosity and I really want to know? Or it's more of like, I'm putting you down.
Yeah.
So it's a little shield you carry behind you all the time.
Yeah. Right. So, what do you guys have as far as resources besides the website we were talking about earlier that people can go to learn more about, either information or more about what DACA is or anything else as far as these topics concerned?
I use her because she's the attorney, and she's in attorney friends group, which is really cool.
So, Facebook group, I mean, and for me, it's like there's a Facebook group with a bunch of attorneys from either obviously different groups that you're always under. One of them is specifically just Dallas courts because that's where I work for the most part, but there is one that's across the states. So it's really just like we're doing right now. When you sit down, you have a
Mhm.
question. I'll sit in the morning and instead of scrolling TikTok, I'm scrolling that Facebook group and just
Yeah.
reading instructions or whatever. I know Carlos and I are trying to build on our TikTok to get more of those like simple, like basic, just letting you know, Dane, you have more questions, just reach out type of thing.
And what's that called so we can put it in the.
Carlos will figure it out.
I will,
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
I will dance and give it to you later.
What have been like things that people have told you is like when they hear about your situation, did they ever just go, oh, why don't you just get married?
That's literally
Yeah.
Carlos every day. Why don't you just get married?
Yeah, a lot of people, including my parents, keep saying
Yeah.
that. Why don't you just get married? It's not that I don't want to be married, but I don't want to be married for that reason. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And it's also not that easy. For example, we're in separate situations where before you left for Mexico, there's two different processes. And that's very getting into the nitty gritty of it. But there's two different processes. If you came in with a visa or with like a permit, you have one process. And then if you came in illegally in Iwi, with how we call it, it's a completely different process. So just getting married doesn't mean you automatically have it. There's like a whole different like process to go through it. And then I've seen a lot of people get divorced once they start the process.
Yeah.
Because it's very long, it's very draining, it's very into your own personal life. So yeah, sure, I'll get married. Let's just hope I don't get divorced after doing the whole process.
Yeah. We get fun stuff like we're not gonna talk about it, but some stuff you sent me earlier that was just kind of funny, but it's okay. You said something in the group chat, but it's fine.
Oh.
We can talk about it after.
So
But-
for example, for me, if I were to get married, then yes, I can do a process. I do an adjustment. I stay here again. But just like Carlos said, I'm not trying to get married just because I need to adjust my status. Like I've made it this far without it. I think I can make it a little longer.
Yeah, and I mean he's definitely right about that. You know, like people definitely needed to know every aspect of your life, what you did before and after. So you know you have to be comfortable with letting it really get into your personal information.
Is
Mhm.
one process longer than the other? Like one of you outstay the visa versus coming in illegally?
The adjustment can take right now between 4 months and then the other one, if you came in illegally, you're thinking about 7 to 8 years.
Wow.
That's what in Spanish is called el perdón.
Mhm.
Basically, because you came illegally, you need this. How is your spouse going to be living without you? Like the hardship, you have to explain so much. And with this new parole in place, that waiver, because you had to leave and wait 6 years, it's only taking.
Yeah.
I know a family friend, when it came out that same day, they applied for it and they got approved that same day, the next day. But since it's frozen now, that's why they're making this parole in place. Like, wait, people are doing this and not waiting the 6 years. Like right away. But that's different processes.
Yeah.
Or there's different categories, like is it a resident parent sponsoring their kid, is it a kid sponsoring a son, a brother? And the 20-year one is brothers. So siblings sponsoring other siblings, that takes 20 years.
Because keep in mind,
Wow.
whereas like they came here with one child 20 something years ago, and then
Yeah.
they had another child or more children here, and it's like, oh, everybody in my family has documents except me.
That's me right now. Everyone, which I'm proud because I helped my parents. I did their process
Mhm.
from my brother to my parents. So now I'm happy that they have residency. Like I was afraid more for them because
Yeah.
when I was younger, they're the ones who are keeping us here, fed, everything. But now that they're there with papers, if I were to be deported because DACA runs out, I'll be okay because now I have my education. And in Mexico, I can travel anywhere in the world. I can work for the government. I can get healthcare. I think I would be okay if that were to happen, knowing that my parents are okay now too.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. Yeah, I'm glad that you're able to help them out. Like, and now you're doing TikTok dances for.
No, that's the one thing they wanted me to not do.
Would they like lose some weight first before you
That's true,
truffle shuffle for immigrants?
And it's like an ongoing joke. They're like, for my family, they're like, so you help everybody become a resident, but you yourself are not a resident. And I was like, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah,
Like your clients have better status than you do.
but I mean, Carlos does make a good point here. At this point, you guys are established, so it would really, really, really suck for you guys to have to go back. But at this point, you have something at least. Not
Yeah.
everybody's that lucky if that happens to them. Yeah.
And if it were to happen to me, we can still FaceTime, and I'll be glad to join the podcast through Mexico.
Just get a place somewhere near the ocean. I'll come by and we'll chill.
Dude, they're expensive.
Yeah.
Because luckily, the attorney opened up a Cancun office.
Oh shit.
And so there's special for DACA. There's a special permit that allows you to travel outside the country for medical reasons, work, or humanitarian. Like if your close family member's about to pass away, you're there to say goodbye and then come back. Last year, he needed for me to train the new people over there, and he knew I had DACA, so he gave me the opportunity, and I'm very grateful to leave, train them, and then come back. Well, that's a legal entry. So now I can basically adjust inside the U.S. if I get married, obviously.
Yeah.
But that was a really nice thing to do. He basically started a pathway for me to get residency.
Wow, I didn't know it worked like that. That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
any
Trust me,
Yeah.
I've known this dude for
We'll put up
14,
his Tinder
15?
profile in the link.
Wait, 18 years I've known you. Yeah. God damn.
Yeah, it's
the
been
whole life.
Yeah.
It's a whole life.
Yeah. He's a little bit older than 18. He does look young. He has a baby face. But he's
That's why I have a beard. Yeah.
Carlos is a good dude. Carlos is a really good dude. And I don't know. If she's able to put up with you, she's also a good person.
It's the other way around. Every time
There are days I was
Yeah.
like, and I don't like to like tell him, but he scares me. I get frightened very easily. So
No,
he'll hide every morning when I get there, or like I'll leave the office for whatever reason, and he's like behind the door, or he'll just open the door and like claps really loud, and I'm like, focus, and so like it all kills me. I've called him pendejo. I don't know how many times.
You know, I mean, honestly, sounds like a Carlos thing to do. To me.
I am learning now.
Well, cool. I feel like we've touched on a lot of really good topics here. So I think it's about time we start wrapping things up, right?
Yeah.
So what do you guys have to shout out? Any shout outs you want to do to anything? Any links people you want to go to? Any resources you want to send people to?
You can always find my name for the attorney or the firm if there's any questions, obviously. For them, my full name should be coming up. Yesenia Cornejo Toban. Like I said, we're located in Fourth Ward, and we're here if they need any questions.
Yeah, our law firm, there's a lot of law firms that I've personally gone to that they don't want to do work because it's extensive, or sometimes they're just money hungry until, yeah, we can help you, but then later down the line you see that you don't qualify. I've been working with this attorney, and personally, he's good, and he doesn't tell you that, he doesn't lie to you. So if he's like, hey, you don't have anything, he'll straight up tell you, hey, you don't have anything, so don't waste your money with us or anyone else because you don't qualify for this reason.
Yeah.
So if you guys just want to come for a consultation, we'll let you know if you do qualify or if you don't. So that way you know, so you don't waste your money, or if you do have something, we may be able to help you. Because we do everything from courts to immigration to fiance visas. And if you guys seen 90 Day Fiance, have you seen that or heard of that?
Yeah.
That's basically the fiance visa, what we don't see, but we help with the process for that.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it. Thank you for having us, and if you guys if you need anything, just let us know.
All right. Thank
Cool.
you.
Let us shoot from the Cancun office. We really appreciate you being on. Thank y'all so much. All the links are going to be in the description and probably on the screen right now. Thanks for watching. I know it was a little bit of a different episode, but hey, gotta expand, gotta try out. Thank y'all so much, and yeah, see y'all later. Bye.
Bye.
Guys.